stop using advanced chords like major 9 and minor 9 chords. There's only one reason. Are you trying to make an R&B sample or are you trying to make an Afrobeat? And I'll break it down even further. R&B is a very smooth type of genre where it needs you to sit down and listen to the melodies, while Afrobeat on the other hand needs you to get up and dance and move a certain way. And if you want to achieve that type of vibe, you should dumb it down a little bit, make basic chord progressions and use very basic chords like major 7s or triad chords. And with that said, let me break down this sample. So I started with a pad from Xband, and I used also a music box, which is a bell, and it sounds like this. And after having that pad element, I decided that I need a foundation, so I added a bass from Morphine, and the name of the preset is Electric Fingered, and it sounds like this. I then also decided to add a contrast to this bass, so I added another bass from Forefront Bass, which is also a bass guitar, and it sounds like this. I then added a vinyl noise from RC20, and it sounds like this. So I added this vinyl noise as a sort of texture to dirty up the sample a little bit, if you might call it. I then added a drum loop also with the additional one shot, and this is how the drums sound like. And so the drums gave me that Afrobeat groove which I wanted. I then added a horn from Roland JV, as well as a flute from Sonatine Orchestra to play a melody which is different from what the chords are playing from the pad. So this is how the horn and the flute sound like. And so that provided me the melody that I wanted. I then added a choir from Sonatine Orchestra, as well as a piano from Piano Tech, to further expand what I already have. And these two layers worked beautifully together as well as in the sample, and they sound like this. I then decided to add a sort of like impact to this piano and choir with strings. So the strings I added is a violin tremolo from Sinful Orchestra, as well as a bigger four-man string from Xband, and together they sound like this. So they playing that exact same layer you heard from the choir to, like I said before, to add impact. I then added a cello sustain from sonatina orchestra, as well as a second violin sustain also from sonatina orchestra, to add a different type of contrast to what was played, and this is how it sounds like together. So by contrast, I mean that they are playing at a higher octave compared to the other strings. I then decided to add more strings for the last section to make it even more bigger. And how I went about doing this is I took the chord progression that I played from the pad and I separated the notes by each layer, and each layer got its own type of string. And for these 2 layers, I decided to add an orchestral from SRX Orchestra, as well as a warm violin also from SRX Orchestra, and this is how it sounds like. So it definitely sounds weird when I play these layers in solo mode, but in terms of the sample, they sound really brilliant. At the end you will hear when I play you the final sample. And after the spiccato strings, I added a solo cello one from SRX Orchestra. I also added the V cello from SRX Orchestra, and both of them combined sound like this. I then finished off the sample with a preset called 3 cellos from SRX Orchestra, and it sounds like this. And with that, let me show you the effects that I used. So for the expand, I added an EQ to shape the sound, and then for the horns, I just took care of the low end, nothing much. I also sent it to this reverb bus where I added a Valhalla plate to add ambience. And for the piano, I added an EQ to shape it a little bit further. And for the sonatina choir, I also sent it to this reverb bus where I added a Valhalla vintage verb as well as an EQ to shape the choir. And for the violins, I added a Valhalla vintage verb to add a bit of more space again. And for the orchestral string from SRX, I just took care of the low end. And for the flute, I then sent it to a delay bus where I added an echo boy to add space with the delay. I also added a chorus plugin to make it a little bit wider. And with that said, for the master channel, I added a Fruity Soft clipper to make sure that the sample is not going above 0 dBs. I also then added a limiter to further make sure that there's no problems. And now it's time for me to play you the final sample, and the final sample sounds like this. And that's the final video. Thank you for watching. And please don't forget that Food for the Soul Volume 2 is out now. The link is in the description of this video if you want to purchase the sample pack. And also my new single War is coming. The link is also in the description of this video. And with that said, I hope you learned a lot from this sample. And thank you very much for your support and watching my videos. I'll see you again 2 weeks from now. Thank you.